So let's continue the next part of the biodiversity and its conservation. In this topic, we will be learning about hotspots of biodiversity, what are the threats of biodiversity which are being seen, that is habitat loss, poaching of wildlife and manned wildlife conflicts. So hotspot biodiversity. Here what we are referring is, to get a tag of a hotspot, there should be two factors. One, that particular biodiversity region should have at least 1500 vascular plants as an endemic, and the second one, it should lose about 30% of its natural vegetation, which means those places are having plant species and animal species which are very rare and can be found only in that particular region itself, and which cannot be replaceable, that is irreversible. So here around the world there are 36 areas which are being qualified as hotspots. In India there are 4 hotspots. So according to the Norman Mayer, an environmentalist, he has said that 44% of all species have been there around the world, and 35 species are from 4 vertebrate groups, and there are like 24 to 25 hotspots are coming in the near future, which is about 1.4% of land surface of Earth. So the Earth's biodiversity is distributed in specific ecological regions, that is around 200, and this area is referred to as global 200, and it is also estimated that in the near future, that is about 50,000 endemic plants, which comprises 20% of the global plant population, and will be occurring in these 18 hotspots in the world. So what are the threats what we are seeing at the biodiversity? One is, man has begun to overuse, or we can say misused, the natural ecosystem, and it is been observed that the scientists are estimating that human activities are involved more, and in the near future, about 2050, we will be seeing that approximately 10 million species are being extinct. So in these hotspots, what is happening, the rare keystone species are getting extinct and endangered, due to which the whole biodiversity is getting suffered. So the natural forests which are being deforested for timber are replanted for only commercial use plants, with those plants which are having commercial value. They are not seeing what the ecosystem is there in that particular forest. So they are only planting which is having a commercial value, like teak, sal, or other single species which are present in the commercial value market. And one of the major factor what we are observing is this, due to this the forest biodiversity is getting disturbed, and even we are seeing that exotic weeds are being introduced, due to which the natural vegetation is also getting disturbed. Example, Congress grass. So the other factors what we are seeing in the grassland ecosystem and other areas are similar to that one. Due to overpopulation, the grasslands are turned to agriculture lands, and with this what is happening, the species which are present in the grassland are getting diminished, and those species, rare species like shrubs, herbs which are grown in that particular grasslands are getting extinct or endangered. So in the coastal ecosystem, if we see, due to overfishing, especially by trawling, it is seen that there is a serious depletion of fish stock is happening. Even turtles are getting massacred of the coast of Orissa due to this trawling. So they are getting trapped in the nets, and they are not being properly saved. So even the other wildlife and species like tiger of and lion of Asian, that is present in the Gir forest of Gujarat, is getting extinct. So they are being preserved. The rare whale shark, which is highly endangered, it is also getting extinct. And another reason what we are observing is due to poaching. This is what is happening. Due to large economic benefits, the people in the tribal areas are killing animals and utilizing their skin and bones for commercial value, exporting them to other countries where rare medicinal drugs are being produced from that. Some of them are like even elephants are being killed for their ivory, horns, and horns for rhinos, and the perfume from the musk deer are extensively used abroad. Bears are killed for the gallbladders. So due to poaching, the man is disturbing the ecological system. There are many endangered fish also, such as mashir, which once grew to over 1 meter in length, has been decreased right now due to overfishing. The habitat is lost, the food what it feeds is getting disturbed, the whole eco chain or the food chain is being getting disturbed. Many species of marine animals such as whales, sharks and dolphins that live in this Indian Ocean are threatened or extinct due to fishing in the deep sea. So what are these endangered or endemic species of India we are seeing? Before that, we would like to know what is the endangered and endemic mean. Endangered species are those species which has been categorized as very little or to become extinct. It is a very vulnerable animal, and endemic species is those species which is confined to small area and is found within that particular and area and nowhere else. So these makes the biodiversity unique among themselves. For example, if we see the forest owl and leopards, white belly crow, this duck bill platypus, hornbill, other species of birds are getting extinct, and even the animals like black bug, deer, nilgai, elephant, tiger and leopard, these are getting extinct or endangered. So what are the steps we are taking to conserve this biodiversity? So conservation is broadly divided into two types. One is in suit and the another one is ex suit. In suit is the type of conservation where the natural habitat is placed or preserved in its own natural way. It is not disturbed, like biosphere reservation, national park, gene sanctuary is another one where it is conserved. So preservation is the most important thing what we are seeing. In ex suit, what is we are doing is conserving the plant species and animal species in an artificial way, artificial environment like zoos or by botanical or herbal gardens or the field bank or tissue culture and repository DNA libraries or cryopreservation, where the animal species are brought and kept in particular area and conserved, because maintaining such a long species in that natural environment might be risky. So in ex suit, what we are seeing, the natural way of breeding is different. It is like man helps them to get breed. When compared to in suit, here the natural breeding happens and the natural system flows. So there is no involvement of man. And preservation is also can be seen like in the form of herbarium for the plant species and animal species. Also we can see them in the museums. So by this the biodiversity can be conserved, because the species what we are seeing in these diversified areas are very rare, and once it gets lost, so the whole ecological system gets disturbed, and the human involvement also be observed. So there are some wildlife acts and other necessary laws are passed to make sure that any human involvement is there or to be restricted. Even there are some pilot projects like tiger reserve, tiger project, crocodile project, elephant project, where the rare or endangered species which are going to be endemic, those kind of species are preserved, and government is even getting from worldwide fund from the other international organizations. So it is our duty to make sure that the conservation has to be at any cost maintained, because the biodiversity consists of natural resources which are once disturbed, it cannot be brought back, and the future generation will be finding it difficult to get those resources what was there. So the traditional usage of biodiversity has to be kept in mind, and it has to be preserved for the next generation, and even there should be the proper usage of the diversity products or resources what we are getting, and human should not interfere with the biological or ecosystem which is present in the biodiversity. It has to be maintained properly. They should not interrupt for their sake or greediness. They should not kill the animals, because this may lead to the extinct, as we are seeing in case of many species of plant and animals, because these species of plant animals might be important in commercial value or market, but once it is gone, then the whole ecosystem disturbs. No matter it is a small species or a bigger one, it plays a key role in the biodiversity. So it has to be make sure that the human involvement in that particular place or biodiversity has to be restricted as much as possible when it comes to threatening or endangering the species. So with this I would say, like, whatever the subject topics we have gone, I would like to revive once. So in the beginning we have seen that what is this biodiversity and what are the levels of biodiversity, that is genetic diversity, species diversity. When these two are clubbed together, which forms an ecosystem diversity, and what are the biogeographic classification of India when compared to the biodiversity, and what is the value of biodiversity. So the values what we have seen in this biodiversity is that one is conceptive value, the productive value, social value, and ethical value, aesthetic value, and option value. These are the values what we are getting from the biodiversity, and which is very important. And even we have seen that the biogeographic classification of India with reference to the biodiversity. Here the biogeographic classification of India, those 10 regions or regimes, those are like cold mountains where snow is covered, like Trans-Himalayan region of Ladakh, the Himalayan ranges and valleys of Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Assam and northeastern states, the Terai, the lowland where the Himalayan rivers flow into the plains, the Gangetic and Brahmaputra plains, the Thar desert of Rajasthan, the semi-arid grassland region of the Deccan Plateau that comes in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, the northeastern states of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and the western Ghats of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and the long western and eastern coast belts with sandy beaches, forest and mangroves. These are the biogeographic classification of the Indian with reference to the biodiversity what we have seen. And when comes to the role played by the biodiversity at global level, national level and local level, why and what are the steps taken to preserve this biodiversity, as it is providing us clean air, water and shelter and food and even medicinal plants and other necessary things which is required for the life to sustain. And in that we have seen why India is called as a mega diversity nation, and what are those factors which makes India called as a mega biodiversity, and what are the hotspots of biodiversity and threats that have influenced the biodiversity. That is, one is habitat loss, poaching of wildlife and man-wildlife conflicts. So these are the things what we have seen, and even the conservation after knowing about all this importance of the biodiversity, what are the conservation steps we are seeing that ensue and exude of biodiversity. So this is all I would say. Thank you for listening to the class. Have a good day.